Welcome to the Future Media Concept sponsored free webinar on DaVinci Resolve version 18. We're going to do some color wheels versus curves, which is a color environment control. We're going to talk about the primary color correction, and we're going to use the scopes, find out how the scopes are going to help you. And we're going to copy color correction from one clip to another clip, which basically means that if you have an interview and you have like 15 occurrences of that interview in a story, if you correct one of those interview shots, you should be able to copy it for the additional remaining 14, and you don't have to do it over. Presumption is that the quality and the lighting and everything else stay the same. We're going to talk about MagicMask. MagicMask was introduced in earlier version, but right now in 18 is much more smoother. It's much cleaner, much more precise, almost like artificial intelligence, really in a $300 package, because that is only available in the paid version, which is called the Studio. And we'll talk about the concept of the outside note. So that is what I am prepping for you guys. So let me get out of the DaVinci Resolve. The first thing that you as a editor will always have to deal with, where is the material, how you're going to bring it in, and how you're going to distribute it. I have a whole variety of hard drives, and one of those hard drives contains the footage that I will be using. So if you are starting from scratch, and let's start from scratch, I'm going to shut down DaVinci Resolve, and I will close it, and I'm done. This is how the session generally works. You download the free version, or you buy the $295 studio version. Where do you get it from? If you are a user already, you know that you can get into an environment such as, and from there you can download the regular Resolve. That's a regular. The paid version is the studio. So that's where you would find what is the newest version. When you download it, if you are using a Windows machine, it will be in your C drive where the applications would be. I think it's called program folders, and it would be showing up as a DaVinci Resolve, and it will tell you what is the version. My version is 18.1, and I can see that there. So that is what the DaVinci Resolve application uses as a location. So you can open up the application from there. Left double click on it. This is how the application opens up. So the first thing that you need to always address is, what are you doing? Well, the wireframe shows you what's the active environment. So if I have an existing project, I can actually switch over, and that is the one I'm going to use. But untitled project is generally what you start with. So the question is, what is the untitled project? If you right click drop down, there is a project settings, brand new project. It will always default to 1920, and it defaults to 24 frames because DaVinci Resolve was used for film correction way back when it started out. So with that, when you open it up, there is empty project, double click on it, and it opens up the real estate. The real estate, I generally like to always reset the workspace to a user interface reset layout. And the question is, what am I resetting? Look at the bottom. There is like a media link. There is a cut page, which is almost like an iMovie, if you're familiar with that concept or that software. Then you have the regular edit, which is source viewer, record viewer, timeline, and the material that you're going to mess with. Fusion is an animating tool. We're not covering Fusion. We're doing color. So in color, when the window opens up like this, and you see all the elements, the four wheels, the curves, and the keyframes on the right side, that means that you have the right aspect ratio of your computer. And if your aspect ratio or setup of the monitor is not 1920 or 1080 or higher, you will be missing elements. So in order for you to double check that, I always recommend, this is the first place to go to, activate your reset user interface layout, and it resets it. So now, how do you bring in material? Generally, the media is the place where you bring in stuff, and you see it on the bottom, it says no clips in media pool. Add clips from media storage to get started. So how you do that? Right click drop down. There is a keyboard shortcut on a Mac, which is Command I, should be Control I on the Windows, and import media. So where do you get it from? Well, so I have some material that I found someplace. Where is it? It's on my desktop, and it is these QuickTime movies. Okay, these are QuickTime movies of footage. So you can select one, multiple ones, or just lasso all of them and say, hey, I'm going to bring those guys all in. So now all those clips come in, and now if you want to check them, you have a couple of choices. Switch over from media to edit. You single click on one of those guys. I can drag it into source monitor. Now it's in the source monitor. Now I can use the playhead to scroll to material. So essentially, I did make the connection where the stuff is in, and I can use it. Here's the fastest and easiest way to cut a story together, guys. If you're a drag and drop user, I hope you understand the concept of drag and drop. You select all the clips and say, hey, lasso. You can also click on one of them, hold down Shift and select all of them and say, I'm going to drag them into timeline. Or I can right click on one on top and it says, hey, create a new timeline. Oh man, that's how easy that is. Yes, it is. The question is, how would you organize them in some kind of a timely manner or some kind of an alphabetic manner? So in that case, I'm going to switch over to not a picture view, but a data view. And it says 31, 1, 31, 2. So there's a number 731. So it follows the logic 735, 736, 5 is the last one. So I lasso them. And because I organized them in ascending, I can right click and I can expect that the 731 is going to be coming in. Now, the reason why the timeline is asking, what do I want to call it? Because I am not sure what is going to be the starting time code, because if I'm selling it to, let's say, 60 minutes, they start at 19, which is 7 o'clock on Sunday. So I would probably type that in. So the timing is going to be different. And I will actually, at the beginning, decide how many tracks. If you did that right click, that's going to happen. But if you don't do right click, just lasso it and throw it in the timeline, guess what? That's it. Now you put together a story. No, we didn't put a story together. We put together something called string out. So all the clips that I have in 731 all the way down to 736 are now in that timeline, because the timeline is kind of stretched out with Shift Z, that Windows or Mac. Now I can see all the clips, and I can jump from clip to clip by using the up and down arrow. The down arrow moves next clip, next. I'm moving around the clips. So this is a very simple manipulation. If you used Final Cut, or if you use Premiere, or even if you use Avid, this is very logical. Everybody seems to do that. So this is how you brought material in, and you do the editing, and then you are done. And this is what you and I will deal with. You click on the shot and say, hey, I'm going to correct it because maybe I'm not happy with the color, or somebody above my pay grade wants to have it more crisp or darker or brighter, or change the colors. So now you're switching from edit to color. And that's when you and I will be. Switches to color. Now you notice that I am part on the clip that is highlighted, the orange, and somewhere in the middle or the beginning, my playhead tells me that I can decide what is my reference frame to look for brightness, darkness, things of that. So if you're familiar with the curves, you can see in the middle, there's a curve, custom curve, and it actually gives you a dark area, which is on the bottom all the way in the left, and the bright area. So you can physically make adjustments to a node. Oh, what's a node? In this case, I am not adding a color adjustment to the clip or color layer on top of that. I am inside the clip, and inside the clip, this node represents what the default is. Wait a minute, it doesn't. Oh, I had touched my curve. So let's clear it out. Right click, drop down, reset it. So now this is the original untouched camera original footage. I generally recommend, and I've seen this too be done. Many people have different ways of doing that. Some people say, well, I'm going to adjust everything on one node. Well, if you adjust everything on one node, you cannot separate and adjust and compare what adjustments were. So what I would like to do is Option S, Alt S on the Windows, you add another node, and this node is going to be dealing with just the brightness element, okay? So now if you have that second node and you see that it's active, you see it's active because it is orange wireframe. There we go. So on that node, I'm going to use my curves, and I said curves, if I brighten everything up, look at it, everything brightens up, or darken everything. No, darken it. There we go. So you can see how it responds, and it does respond. My problem is that I designed, and I told you that I'm going to use the color wheels to show how that works. So let's find out what's the difference between color wheels and curves. So now you understand that you can add a node, and the node can do something. Like what? Well, I just told you, you can grab the curves and make it brighter. Okay. If you don't want to see that brightness adjustment, you can just click on the number and it's turned off. On, off. Okay, so the adjustment is kicking in, and now it's not. Let me reset it. And I'm going to talk about now a different way of doing it. There are four color wheels. One is the darkness, lift. One is the mid-range, the gray, gamma, and one is the gain, which is the bright. The offset is getting all three elements moved. So if I go onto that thumb wheel, look at it, there's a thumb wheel under it. I'm going to increase the amount of darkness or decrease it. So I'm actually lowering and layering. Yeah, but I don't see what I'm doing in terms of measurement. So you right click in the program viewer, open up the scopes, and the scopes generally default to 4 scopes. This is your tool. I absolutely believe in the concept of measuring what you see, because your eyes may be not rested enough, or maybe you have a room that has different colors, so your eyes are not seeing the reality. You can say, oh, it looks nice. Yeah, but if you're selling it, somebody's going to say, well, you have to be within range. We call it the safe broadcast range. Oh, okay. So one more time, if you right click inside the program viewer, drop down, there is a scopes, and generally you use 2 scopes. I'm going to start with 1. The first scope that is the most important one is showing you the brightness and darkness, and that scope is called waveform. Now, the waveform is listed to 0, and the maximum is 1024. The reason why it's 0 to 1024, actually 0 is a character, that's why it stops at 1023, is because DaVinci Resolve addresses the color in 10-bit, not in 8-bit. 8-bit gives you 256 permutations or possibilities between darkness and brightness, and the 10-bit duplicates the 256 to 512, that's 9 bits, and duplicate that, 512, 1024. So that's why the range is different. And in this case, you can see that I have some bright elements, but not all the way to the maximum. And I have some dark elements, and they are kind of okay, the dark hair and stuff like that. If the window is too big, you shrink it. I'm talking about the scope. And now you're learning the concept of seeing the scope telling you what you're looking at. If I move around, you can see it responds. Okay, so the dark hair guy is not in there, it's in there. There we go. What's the dark hair? That's that element. What's the bright? This bright area. That's the bright area. And what about mid-range? I don't have any mid-range there. What about it? The roof is kind of brighter. That big jacuzzi they're working on is brighter. So now the question is, how do you take advantage of that? Here's how you take advantage of that. First of all, the waveform generally is not using the color. So you just use the brightness. I increase the waveform so you can see more dense, and you can see the graticule. Graticule is those steps. So it tells you where you are. So when you're saying, I don't have anything that is bright. So what do I do with that? Well, gain is the bright. I push it up, look at it. There we go. Now I have bright. Now my spectrum of the dark and light is now extended. The same thing goes for if I had too much dark, pull up the dark. There we go. I can wash it out for you. There was a TV series a couple of years back on HBO called True Detective or something like that. It was all happening down south, and it was like always hazy, and that's how you make the hazy look. Oh, is it done? Yeah, it's done. You want to compare it to the original? Yes. Okay. So now you already understood the concept of how the wheels work. If you want to make sure that you have brightness, grab the gain, push it up. And if you want to have the thumb wheel, there we go. So now you have a nice balance. Now the producer says, can you show me a different version of it? Yes. You shut down the first correction that you did, and you add another node, option S. So this other node is going to do it differently. It's going to push the mid-range. Therefore, it's going to say, I'm going to push the high a bit, but push the mid-range more. There we go. Squash it up. And I'm going to have a different look. So which is the one you're looking at? Version 1 or version 2? Yeah, I can't compare it. Well, let's hide the scopes. Let's park on the second one, right click and grab a still. Essentially, you made a template that shows you how the first and the second node interacts. And if I want to do it 1 and 3, that's enough in one. Right click on it. Now you have, hello, grab still. There we go. So now you can see it's slightly brighter. So the split screen shows me 1 and 2. There we go. This is the one I'm looking at, and the original. So you can see that there's a different color on the left side as opposed to the right side. That's how you split the window. I'm going to reset things, get rid of 3, hit delete, hit delete. Let me go back into the edit window. And I did preset a project that has a number of elements already prepped for you. So because this is a project that was untitled, we never called it. How about if I open up an existing project? Where? Bottom right-hand corner, go home and say, hey, bring an existing project. I did this project already. I did this prepared for you. But for me, that project is going to be, let's say, gone. So how do you bring in an existing project from someplace? When you want to bring in a project that you saved someplace and it's not found when you open it up because either you delete it or reset your computer, you're not starting a brand new untitled. You're going to open it up by right-clicking, importing a project, and you know where it was saved. I know that it was saved onto the webinars, and the webinar, there we go, DRP. It will take just a couple of seconds to open up, and it says, yeah, Resolve is in. Double click on it. So now let me see what I did for you guys. I had a bin called Timelines, and here is the first one that I made for you. Remember, with those titles, and I'm going to do a jacuzzi that I put together. Double click on it, goes into timeline, and now we're going to go into the color. Shift Z shows the entire timeline. To go through the shots, down arrow, down 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have a whole bunch of shots. So if you don't see any information about the clip that was corrected or altered, you can add a marker so you can see it in edit window. But if you go into color, you will have a different tool helping you identify what clip was corrected. Look at the first one, white. Second white, third white, fourth. The fifth is not just white, but it is containing a rainbow color around the number 5, suggesting that there was an adjustment there. Got it. So that's your giveaway that there was some adjustment on it. So let me now go and show you what I did. And this is where I will talk to you about how you are doing the adjustment and separation by using a MagicMask. So in this scenario, I have a guy talking, and you notice that when I'm parked on a clip, it is set up for loop. Because we're in video editing, why don't we show it on the big screen? So click on it, Command F, play it, and now the guy is playing.
Counsel's office. A couple of things out of that. The question came: when was the president informed of the decision to appoint the special counsel? We heard Committee Jean-Pierre say.
When we look at this material, there is a guy talking to us, and if we look at the lighting, for some reason, his face is not because he's under an awning. So we would like to maybe brighten up his face, and that is generally why we use this MagicMask, because MagicMask is a very powerful tool separating elements that are moving and they are going to be done a certain way. So in this one, I have no nodes. This is the original shot. Let's look at it, and we can see that the guy is in dark. The producer or somebody above my pay grade wants to have his face brighter. So there are a couple of tools to deal with that. This is a specific exercise, a specific protocol. So I'm going to say, hey, go to the beginning of the shot, add a second node, and that second node is going to get only his face, and I'm going to make adjustment only to his face. The problem is going to be because he's moving, I need to track it. So step 1, add a power window. The power window is the most efficient way to do things in a kind of a rough, very fast way. So I'm going to add a circle. The circle size is adjustable by making it smaller or bigger, and I will make sure that that is the one that I have selected. So I'm going to make sure that it is on his face. It's almost like going to be a halo. Can I see it separately? Yes. So I'm going to make sure that he's going to be tracked. So the halo, that circle, follows him. Step 1, added a particular power window. Step 2, track it. And I'm going to track it as a frame tracker. Watch how fast it goes. That's it. It tracks him. There we go. Stays on him. And when I'm done, I'm going to say, moved away a little bit. That needs to be adjusted. That's where you need to do some kind of adjustment. But let's say that is usable. Okay. So if you say that you need to make adjustment, clearly you drag it back, and now there's going to be a keyframe there, maybe another one. That's it. Stretch it out. So you can actually add additional information to it. It will change in real time like it did. Here it went away. Let's come back because he moved the face away. So now this is all tracking his face. It's a decent tracker, right? So now, why did I use that? I use that because I would like to have that face brightened up. How? I just showed you earlier in the lift, gamma, gain, I decide what am I dealing with. Am I going to have more dark or less dark? Resetting is, go back. I'm going to maybe brighten up the mid-tone, which is going to be mid-tone brightening up. There we go. Or I'm going to be brightening up just the bright elements. Now, the problem is that there's not much brightness on that system. Yeah, so it's going to look like a halo. When I play it out, look at how it looks. I'm going to get back and now explain there are different tools instead of just using this halo thing. Let's go really radical. Let's brighten it up like really bright so you can see how the halo does work. Watch it. Plays real time. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Welcome back to CBS News. I'm in the key on
Got the idea, right? So now the question is there a different way of doing that? Yes, I'm going to kill this adjustment because I don't want to have it. I'm going to do a different tool. Still a power window. Power window is the way you separate things. So I'm going to use a different power window, and the power window is going to be the pencil drawn shape around his face. Pencil. Gonna around his head, there we go, and just the neck. So all the skin tones are going to be selected. Every time I want to change direction, I click, and now I have a tool. When I track that, the tracking tool gives me pan, tilt, zoom, rotate, 3D. I'm going to take the 3D because he's not going back and forth. So let's see if I can maybe do that tracking. Maybe that's much more precise. When I do that, before I went into that, I need to decide, am I want to soften the edges? And we'll talk about that, how that works. And because I'm talking about it, why don't I say? So if I brighten him up, you notice there is a very hard edge around him, right? So in order for me to get rid of that hard edge, I will make sure that I am softening it. I'm going to soften it. I'm going to soften the inside and soften the outside. So it's going to be like feathering. The edge is soft. So that's the whole trick about making it kind of believable. Problem is that it's not really precise. So if you want to track it, yeah, you can maybe make it better, but here it is. Track it. There we go. It's better. It's kind of better, okay? But when you say kind of better, it's not enough. But it is usable because it is following much more precisely. It's not just a shape. So it's a defined shape. Now, here's the tool that I'm introducing to you. Let's reset it. And the reason I'm introducing it to you, because this is the biggest seller. It's worth the $300 upgrade. So go to the beginning. This is going to be taking a little bit longer because this is one of the few things that DaVinci Resolve doesn't do real time. Say hello to a new friend called MagicMask. Watch how MagicMask functions. MagicMask opens up and it says, what are you going to select? What am I selecting? I'm selecting a person or features of a person. And the features can be clothing or arms or face. There we go. I'm going to select a person. So the entire person is going to be selected. How? Eyedropper is going to say, I'm going to selecting the person from the head. So I am not drawing a shape. I'm saying the head and everything there. So I have a good one that I did earlier. Okay, there we go. See how bright it is. So he's totally separate. Very nice edges, right? That makes sense. The reason why I'm using this tool, and this is where I will change to the next shot, is the following. Please define that you want to have the guy crisp and the background is going to be out of focus. So if I want to have him selected and the background, look at the background, how clean the background is. Well, it's not really. It has an effect on it. What kind of effect? It has a blur effect. So I'm going to have that background, not just background. I'm going to make it darker. Okay. I'm going to also add a effect called blur. So it will look like as if I'm using a camera with a specific lens zoom and I don't see the background. So here's how the background is going to be blurred. Look at it. This is obviously too much. Make sense out of it. Let's look at it. Command F. But you notice that the background is darker. One option. Two, you notice that the background is blurred. Darker and blurred. So this is how people use a regular GoPro or iPhone camera that does not have the focused length, and you record something and then you separate the object, in this case the person, and that person is going to be crisp, dark or light, whatever you decide. But the point is that you are able to do that with the MagicMask. If you think that you can grab the person and use the MagicMask, and in the MagicMask you can say from the end, I can add a shape on it. I can say, this is the person I'm using. And I will tell the computer that he's selected. And I'm going to go backwards, trace it. And it tells me the frame. So it's tracking the frame. Is it going backwards? Yeah, it's going backwards. Let's see if it is shrinking that red selected area. That's the whole point of this exercise. There we go. The right hand disappears. Look at it. The right hand disappears. Nice. The body disappears. Look at it, how it traced him very nicely. Wow. This is real artificial intelligence. I'm glad that on the spot I was able to do this, demonstrate. I still have about 160 frames, which is about half. But you see how the selection of him was following the artificial intelligence, saying that he is now half body visible. Just the upper torso is visible. And when it gets done, I will have him separate, and I will, with the outside window, blur everything else because he is the person of point of interest. With this, when it's done, I will make sure that he is brighter. He is maybe even more contrasty, maybe add some more brown, so he's like, sunburn, nice. But the point I'm saying is that I need to have everything around him blurred out. Therefore, right click, this is called a outside node. Outside node is the opposite of what you selected. Add an outside node. There we go. The outside node I'm going to blur. And if I have the Gaussian blur, the Gaussian blur is the best one. Look at how the guy is separated. Command. There we go. So he's now separated. Watch it. Everybody else is blurred except him. And he comes out magical. So now you see the power of that MagicMask. And I'm glad that I was able to do it live in real time, and you saw how much time it takes. And if I want to have that blurred area darkened, like really dark, can darken it up. There you go. Everything is dark except he's the bright one. And it is not perfect. If you want to argue with me, I'll take the argument. But it is good enough for me for a 2-3 second shot to separate the guy and say he's the one in focus. So almost looked like the camera was focusing on him. So we explained the concept of the MagicMask as opposed to a power window. And the tool here that I was using earlier when I said I have different ways of making a shot, select different things. I said if I want to have this color, but this is only a color, okay, that adjusts the color. Does it contain all the elements? Yeah, it contains the elements. But if I want to have a different adjustment, watch this, right click, local version, create a new version. And on that version, I'm going to call it version 2. That's going to be the clean version. So that clean version, there we go, reset everything. So I have a clean version, okay? And then after that, I have a version that is the one with the adjustment. Now, let's do quickly the adjustment where everybody is going to be the same. 1, 2, 3. Those are 3 outside shots. Let's agree on that. 1, 2, 3. This is how you copy and paste an adjustment. This is the fastest and easiest way for you guys. Option S adds a node, and that node I'm going to brighten up the bright areas, darken the dark areas. And if I want to see it on the scope, I see, yeah, the bright is okay where it needs to be. The mid-range, maybe push up the mid-range a bit more. There we go. And if I like that look, let's say maybe add some more brown to it. Looks like it's a nice warm day. And I'm going to take away the blue. There we go. It's a nice, or maybe make it a cool day, a very cold day, no sun. Okay, make it blue. And I would like to have that copied over to everybody, to 2 and 3. You can notice 1 is blue, 2 and 3 are different. Select 2 and 3, hold down Shift, and right-click on the one that I adjusted. Say hello to, apply the grade to 2 and 3. There we go. So 1 has the same blue look, 2 has the same blue look, 3 has the same blue look. I don't like it. 2 minutes of your time, clearing out, color drop down, reset everything, and I'm going to make it nice, a warm day. First shot, same thing that I did earlier. Adjust the brightness. Adjust the brightness. And push the red, make it warm. Push the red, looks like a nice red day. Look at it. Second and third shot are still kind of cold. Same principle. Pick 2, hold down Shift, 3. And if you want to have additional ones, obviously you can select all of them. But in this case, I'm only thinking about the 2 and 3. Hold down Shift, say hello to the existing adjustment, and you apply the grade to 2 and 3. There we go. So 1, 2, and 3 are all nice and brown. Play it out on a big screen, 1, 2, and 3. Look at it, shot 1, nice and warm, beautiful sunny day, middle of the day, not too much shadow because I don't see any shadows, so it looks like the sun is way from the top. Okay, speeding it up, L, plays faster, 1 shot, nice, warm. Second shot, I'm speeding it up, playing it out because I need to make sure that I finish it on time. There we go. Second shot, perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm going to make, let's say, the blue a little bit bluer. Option S, Alt S on a Windows, and I want to have only the blue elements blued more. I would need to specify which blue elements. Qualify, I'm going to select the blue. Okay, so I select the blue. And because that is the blue selected, I want to maybe emphasize it. Go into the qualifier. Watch this. I'm going to push that blue, whatever I selected. And you can see how that blue changed. There we go. Original, adjusted. And remember, I said, anytime you do some adjustment, please get used to looking at the scopes. In this case, the brightness is irrelevant. What's relevant is the vector scope. The vector scope tells you that you are looking at a footprint where the blue is less defined or more defined. The blue is around 3 o'clock. The red is around 11 o'clock. Cyan is around 5 o'clock. So you can have more blue. If I have no blue need, I need more green. I take the blue off. And this is something that you are familiar with in curves. Push the green. There you go. Make it greenish shirt. Take away the green. Make it greenish shirt. See how it changes to greenish. And if you want to make it like a narration of that element, you take the saturation, make it like a black and white shirt. Obviously, it's not really that clean, but you notice that I am actually making it like a washed out. Original, adjusted, real time. You see that the edges were not clean because I didn't pick the right blue. So guys, I hope that I gave you not just a fun demonstration, but something that you can utilize and use. I hope this worked for you. Stay safe. Good luck to you guys. Thank you for attending. Be well and enjoy the weekend.